Okay, so now we'll start to put this together. If you guys are following the pocket hole machine videos, then so when you make this piece up, you're going to want to get it looking the same way as this. And like I said, this little block, you're just going to leave it floating in there because you're going to have to adjust the thickness of that. So, but have it looking the same way as this. And then what you're going to do is just to screw this on the back of your pocket hole machine, just even with the back. And then what that should do, you may have to adjust this just a little bit, and I'll tell you the reason why. Is you're going to want to make this, what I always have my pocket hole machine set for, is so that there's about 3/4 of an inch from the top of the pocket hole, or from where the end of the pocket hole comes out, to the fence. And if you want that different, then you'll just be able to adjust that back and forth to wherever you want it. And if you've seen that video, this linkage has enough give in it that I can actually raise that by 3/4 and move it back by 3/4, and it still works the exact same way. So whatever you want to, you just adjust that to wherever you need to for your specific needs. So this piece here is the back end of this machine, and you will have to preset one of these so that that bolt head will go down inside of that, because it has to come out flush. So you'll have to make it so that the bolt will go down in there. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your handle with the 45 on it like this, and you're going to want to put that inside there so that the 45 goes against the back side of that. And it should be so that when that 45 is against, you should be able to hold it tight against, and then just insert the bolt like this, and then push it in flush. So what that does is it creates some redundancy. As you can see, I can straighten that lever out, but then when it comes to the 45 comes to, then it'll make it so that I can push and drill a pocket hole. And then, you see, there's where I get that give. So there, now that we got that like that, the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to put our handle in place. And we'll need a couple of bolts for that. Now, I just got to try to remember how I put this thing together. So this will just go in there. And like I said, we use that second hole. I gave you the sizes of it in the previous video, where it goes. So just insert that, and then you're going to want to put a nut and a washer on it, like so. I think that's where the heck goes. I got to think about things here. It's been a while. I don't think that does go like that, guys. I know it doesn't. So what we'll want now, that goes in another spot. So what we'd want to do is have these pieces here. We'll set these alongside of it. Set one alongside with our handle in place like we have it. And then this, you need a long bolt. And this bolt, I don't have my measuring tape here, but it's long enough that it goes through all of them and still sticks out the other side. I think it's about a 4-inch or 5-inch maybe. You're going to want to go to that first hole, then through the hole in the little brackets, and then through the handle. And then the same thing, another one of these on the other side. And then there'll be enough sticking out the other side that you can put a nut in the washer. There. And then what we'll do now is we can connect this, our lever that pulls on our drill, we can connect that to this. And that's just simply done just by pulling it in place. And that was where that little short bolt went, if I can find it here. Must have left it. I seem to have lost it, guys. I'll look at the video after this is all done and say, oh yeah, there's where it went. Where the heck did it go? That's terrible. Oh, there it is. It fell down inside. So you guys seen that happen? I never noticed it. There. Now I can just pull this lever out, stick him in place. It's a little bit hard to see where I gotta be there. There, so stick that through and put a nut and a washer on it. So there, that'll connect them two levers up. And I should have had a tape measure handy, but I don't have one, because I've got to give you the measurements of this. And I see it right there, so I'm just going to grab it rather than try to shut the film off and attach it back together. Hopefully, I'll just grab my tape here and stick it back together. You can see, if you've seen the other video, I'm working on the kitchen. I got my piles of edge tape there. I'm just getting to sand it and ready to spray, so I don't have a whole lot of time to spend on this. So this is the last piece that you'll need to make here, and this is the clamping mechanism. And what I have here is there's two pieces of about 1 inch by 3/4 that are 6.5 inches long. So 2 pieces, 6.5, and then there's just a little block in between that is about 1 3/4 inches long. And what I did is there's a hole that gets drilled. I just got to think about which ones. I guess this bottom hole doesn't get used. I was just playing around. Like I said, when I built this in a day, so it was kind of like I drilled a few holes that I probably shouldn't have, but you know, it was just getting it working. And anyway, so the only hole that you really have to drill in this is you got to drill 2 holes at the top of these pieces that are 3/4 of an inch down and in the center. And then you're going to have that block in the middle. Then you have to have this bolt that runs through, and it's up about 1 inch from the bottom. So then, and what that does is that's going to run on that little block in there, and that's going to stop the clamp from coming all the way down. It'll be able to rest on that. So I did put a little piece of sandpaper on the bottom of this. I glued it to that, and that just gives this clamp a little bit more grip because I didn't have any rubber around. So a person could put a little bit of rubber on this, glue it down, or staple it or something like that, just to give this clamp a little bit of grip. And then I've got this, I just nailed this little block across there to hold this all together. Doesn't necessarily have to be that way, but I guess that keeps it too from running in against the fence too tight. It'll make the clamp kind of stay straight. So then what you're going to need is another block or another bolt, and that's going to run. So this gets put at the top of it gets put in between the handle, and then what it does is them holes that are in the top of them blocks, that bolt will run right through. Let's get this started. That bolt will run right through like that. So really pretty simple. And you see, there's what's going to lift the clamp, because then that's where the handle will, that bolt will come across the top of the handle, so it's going to lift that up out of the way. So then you will have to have a little tiny spring, and that little tiny spring, what that's going to do is it's going to cause this clamp to stay back tight to the fence. So it doesn't have to be, could be a piece of rubber band or anything. It doesn't have to be a spring. A rubber band would actually work very good there. Because it's hard to find a short enough spring that was really weak. So whatever you decide there, just something just to hold that back tight. Then you'll need a few pieces of these screen door springs, and this is where you have to tension your clamp. Now it does take quite a little bit of tension to do this, but you can see it's just that screw on the back side. I talked about that in the earlier video. You're going to want to hook a spring on that, and then you need a couple of screws coming out the back sides of these 45, the same as that, and that'll give you a place to hook the spring on. So just tension it up so it's, you know, it's got quite a little bit of tension on it, and then hook them on each side, and that's what's going to pull that clamp shut when you do the drilling. So that gets it back together. Other than putting our little plastic cover in place, you know, once you had your machine built, then you could take and put a little fence around this thing, because you had to do that. I had to anyway, because of the way it I couldn't use a router, a bearing, because there's too many little lumps and bumps. So what I did is actually use the base of the router and just used a straight edge on it, and plowed this little groove around it. So you could fill that in with a little piece of plywood or anything, and then that's going to get you drilling. You can see, so there you'll lift up to open the clamp, then you'll be able to just push down and do the drilling. And it works better with a piece of material in it, obviously. I'm just going to break a little chunk here. You know, so this is a piece of 5/8, you know, and that's what I was saying about setting that block of wood. Chances are you're not going to drill anything thinner than 5/8 of an inch. So what you want to do is get that piece of block of wood in between the right height, that when a bolt head, that's what that bolt runs through into there, so that that bolt will run on the top of that little block of wood, and it'll only allow the clamp to close so much, because if it does go too much, it'll kind of end up like I'm ending up right now. The drill bit binds a little bit when it goes in, but when it's drilling, when there's a piece of material in, you can see that it'll just drill the hole. So you will have to play around with tensioning your springs, get them nice and tensioned. You know, the same thing with the return spring, get it nice and tensioned up to whatever you want it. But once you get it set, you know, once you build one of these things, it's actually pretty bulletproof. You know, you're going to have to lift on this, because you know you're going to extend them springs when you lift. That's one of the only disadvantages of this. It does take a little bit of effort to lift before you drill, but it's not bad. It's way better than having to push on a drill, that's for sure. And then when you do it, you can literally drill with one finger. I've done it with several. In several of the videos, you'll see me drilling hardwood literally with one finger. So pretty straightforward. You'll have to make sure that your bit is super, super tight. I usually use a pair of pliers and a vice grip to tighten it down. And yeah, so there she is. So pretty straightforward. Hopefully you guys can build one. We'll just have to wait and see. If you guys have any troubles, just post in the comments what you need to see more of, and I'll shoot some video to show more of it. And if you have any questions, you can just leave them in down below in the comments, and hopefully you guys will all take the time to push the like button and share too. And then what we're going to do after a little while here is we're going to get on to the floating router. If you guys have seen that, and if you haven't, have a look at that. It's the craziest rig you're ever going to see, and we're going to build that next on camera. So you guys keep tuning in. Hopefully you had fun watching, and I thank you for watching this video.